We're going to start with Aetna today. I sent out a mass email that most of you should have received. If you didn't get it, please email me any of the emails you get. Just reply back and say, hey, Dave, I didn't get that email. But I'm going to spend some time talking about this new Aetna product. I think it's actually going to be pretty neat. It's officially been released as of today. It is an updated version of an old final expense plan they've had for many years, which personally I've always thought that it kind of fell out of favor, wasn't very good. But nowadays, not so much. So let's talk a little bit about this product, why it looks good, why I think it's something worth probably seriously considering. So the big thing about this product is a couple of things. You know, when I look at a carrier, what I'm most concerned with is the carrier easy to use. That's actually, at this point in my business, the most important element. I've used carriers long enough that were superior in pricing and underwriting, or pretty good in both of them, but just horrible to use. And that's otherwise like not a good first choice carrier. So ease of use is a big deal for me. Number one, I have to have my agents be able to use these products successfully and easily, and make sure that when they do it, everything's done accurate, the business gets issued quickly, and you get paid. So by all estimations so far, the Aetna Accendo final expense product seems to be extremely easy to use. So let me give you a little details on what I've discovered so far. So first off, if you're face-to-face, you do have the option for an electronic application with an instant decision. There also is a paper app. We're going to take a look at that just for the sake of reviewing health questions, which are also nice. Also, you can sell this over the phone. I confirmed this with probably the most successful telesales agent known to man, Anthony Martin, this morning. He asked me, or I asked him about how the telesales process worked. And he essentially said that with Aetna's product, you don't have, if you can do telesales, number one. Number two, you don't even have to get them to electronically sign anything. And I know this sounds kind of unbelievable, but all you need is a code word, whatever that is, like, you know, middle name or something. And as long as that's confirmed by the client, that is them signing it. That's how I understand it. So they don't have to do any sort of signature process, period. It's not on a recorded line, as best as I can tell. It's not a three-way call to get an instant approval, best as I can tell. They just give you some sort of keyword that identifies that they agreed to the process of doing all this. Kind of wild, isn't it? So, but hey, if you're selling over the phone, that makes life real easy. And they've been doing this for about a year now. So it's not some newfangled idea. It's been out for a while. It's got some legs. And obviously, if they're doing it, they've vetted it enough to know that it's compliant. So yeah, so if you're selling over the phone, this is huge, very big. And as you get into the underwriting and pricing, you're going to see even more so just how really good this product is. How do they get the keyword to Aetna? Well, it's you do an electronic application. They don't have to sign anything. So you're sitting there at your computer, whether you're face-to-face or over the phone, typing all their information in, and then they give you the keyword, whatever that process is. I don't know exactly the process. I just know that in order to authorize the application, that's the exchange of information necessary. So yeah, there you have it. You're welcome. So lots of implications here. Again, ease of use is so critical, especially if you're doing anything, really telesales over the phone. With electronic application process on your end, obviously that eliminates the amendment issues, et cetera, that kind of thing. And now that you don't even have to phone in a call, that's even better. I don't know about where the keyword comes from, to be honest with you. I just know that there's some sort of code that you have to input that I think is based off of the client's answer. Like, you know how you do these like authorization processes online, like middle name or what's your favorite vacation spot. I think that's what they mean, something like that. But there's no electronic signatures involved. Let's see what the old, so as far as availability, so let's check that out since Scott asked that question. Check out the list here. This is the outline or the rollout dates, or yeah, excuse me, rollout dates and states that this will be available. It is available as of today in Indiana. That's okay. Well, better than writing it and it's not available. That's dumb. I mean, you should have checked, right? So it's better to be dumb now than dumb later. This is less dumb and that's more dumb. Okay. So this whole point of sale interview required, I'm going to, this again, all of this is very fluid for me. I sat down and wrote this whole overview yesterday based off information I had on Monday. So some of this is going to be updated. So right now what I'm seeing is there's no point of sale, traditional point of sale interview required. I don't know if this, a couple things I can tell you I don't know, which we're going to work on. I don't know if they pay on policy fee. I don't know if what the frequency of the commission pay is. It's probably daily or weekly or something typical. I'm pretty sure they pay on first draft, not on issue. But again, I've got my assistant looking that up for us, so we'll get more information there. Let's see what else. They do an MIB RX check. If you're old school, you probably remember Aetna back. You got to be real old school. Aetna used to not do MIB and script checks. I mean, you could get anything done as long as the client said no to everything, right? So it was ripe with problems. But now you've got an MIB and script check. There is not, as of now, I'm going to try to look while we're talking here in a minute. Right now, as best as I know, there isn't a script check. So, I'm sorry, there is a script check, but there's not an updated script profile. I'm going to check here in just a second since it's technically rolling out today. They may have made it live. And that's going to have some implications on how easy it is to get some of these ratings issued. So I'll get back to that. Remind me if I don't here in a little bit. MIB is short for Medical Information Bureau. That essentially is a, it's kind of interesting. Everybody all complains about Big Brother. Yeah, everybody knows personal information, all this nonsense, and you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't want to live in a country like that. Well, guess what? MIB, man, they got all your information. They know everything about you. So MIB is a, I guess the way to describe it is it's an agreement. It's an entity, but it's formed by member insurance organizations. And every time a claim is filed or an insurance policy is filed, the information from that is reported from the insurance company because they obviously received the claim. Right? And then that is applied or made into a record under the Medical Information Bureau. So it actually serves the purpose of preventing what's called adverse selection. So it is a check and balance against, well, if somebody claims they don't have a condition, but they look at the MIB and they see that from another insurance company reported a claim that they had filed, and that checks against what they say. It's a way to protect every insurance company from you know, people who deceive or misrepresent. So, but as you sign every insurance policy, you sign your life away saying all of your information on claims are going to be reported to the MIB. So it serves as a central hub of information, of course, you know, or segmented by your social security number. And then from there, all of your personal information on any claims, prescription, not prescription fills. That there is something like that for prescription fills, but it's not managed by MIB. It's managed by another kind of company. I forget what it's called. But yeah, so that's what it is. It's a way to check your health history to ensure that how you're applying, you actually qualify for it. Okay, good question. All right. Oh, they only draft checking and savings accounts. So there's no direct express drafts here. I'm pretty sure they're going to require agents, errors and omissions. That's typical. I think that's pretty typical with Aetna. Now, as we look through this, you're going to see 4 pricings. The first one is super preferred. The vast majority of time, I might as well just toss that out. Why is that the case? Super preferred is only used when you get a person approved for coverage, but also has bought an Aetna Medicare supplement plan within the last 90 days, I believe. So essentially what that means is it's only conditional on the purchase of a med sup. Most of our clients aren't going to do that. So super preferred don't count. However, what does count is preferred, standard, and modified. Your modifieds are typical to your weight. And your standard and preferred, just like Liberty, Foresters, Transamerica, is a first day full coverage product, but the standard price is higher, the preferred price is lower, okay? Issue ages start at 40 years old all the way up to 89. I don't have specific details yet on where that stands with the different rating classes in addition to the face amounts. The minimum is $2,000, the maximum is $50,000. Now I think for people 86 to 89, it's going to be $25,000 max. Again, I've heard this. I don't have total confirmation of this. We'll get it very shortly here. But that's great. Nice wide range of people that you can insure with the same application. You're not going to flip to a different app because they're younger or anything. Question from Tel, do they do Social Security deposit billing? You better believe it. So deposit billing is I don't know if it's a requirement, but is an option, which it should be a requirement really. So that's great. Okay, they got a couple of riders you may be interested in. They got the grandchild rider, which has guaranteed conversion, an accelerated death rider, and then an accidental death rider. So don't know when the cancellation date is on those. Not most accidental death riders don't last the entire life of the insured. They cancel at 75 or 80, but I don't have specifics on that quite yet. There's no height weight chart. Woohoo! So if there's height weight questions, issues, pull this puppy out. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the application. Anybody got any questions so far? So far, so good. Let's take a look at a sample application here. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. Ask. You can unmute yourself or just talk.
When Tel asked about the Social Security billing, what exactly does that mean? Does that just mean you can choose the day that it comes out? Is that all that means?
Yeah, let me explain this. Very, very important to understand this. So, Social Security deposit billing. For the record, banks are closed, and this all makes sense. The banks are closed on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, okay? If you draft on a given numerical dates, let's say we draft on the 3rd of the month, right? That's when our client gets Social Security, right? Usually that's a good plan. What happens if the 3rd falls on a Saturday, right? Or let's say this is even better. Let's say it's July. The 3rd falls on a Sunday. We can't draft that person earlier by the contract for drafting. It stipulates on or after, okay? But we can't draft it on the 4th because that's the 4th of July. That's a Monday. That's a holiday. So we can't draft the client till the 5th of July. But here's the thing with Social Security is since they know the banks are closed on these same holidays, you can't deposit as much as you can't withdraw. They pay the recipients early. They don't wait like we do to take the money. They just forward it over a little early. So for example, in this case, if the client normally is paid on the 3rd of the month, Uncle Sam pays our clients not on that Saturday, if the 3rd was on a Sunday, but on that Friday, the July of the 1st. So our clients get their money early. We get our money late. And they've had the whole weekend to party, enjoy the 4th of July celebrations, pull all their money out of their ATM, and then whoops, forget their due, their premium payments due on their insurance plan. So here's the thing. If you set a numerical date, it's subject to the whims of when the weekends and holidays are. And you have to understand about our clientele is you have to beat them to the ATM, okay? You've got to draft them on the very day in which they receive their money. The shorter the time between deposit and drafting for the premium bill, the higher your first year persistency, the quality of the business that sticks on the books is going to be. So my recommendation is never give your clients a numerical date option. Assume the close on that they're going to be drafted whenever their Social Security deposit date is. There's only 5 different dates it can be, I think. The 1st of the month, the 3rd of the month, or the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th of the month, okay? So, and sometimes it's automatically applied based off of, I think like their social security number. So if there's some way that social security, there's some way that the companies can determine and know ahead of a time based off of some personal information like social security number, when, or maybe it's date of birth, when they're going to actually receive their social security on that specific first third of the month or second, third, or fourth Wednesday. So this is critical. Of all companies, Transamerica started this in 2014. They were the first ones to do it. Over a year's time, they found that their persistency across the board went up 10%. That's absolutely astounding. There really hasn't been much innovation in final expense since then, okay? So this is critical. So anytime I say Social Security billing, that's what this means. And you should always preferentially write Social Security deposit billing carriers. And you should always assume and not ask for permission to draft on deposit dates, on Social Security deposits, on the Social Security deposit basis, not draft on numerical dates. Okay? Are the riders automatic? No, you're going to pay more to get the riders. So they're usually nominal costs for grandchild accidental riders. The accelerated death benefits included with most plans, probably this one too. But the other ones are going to cost a nominal fee. Yes, what are the ages for the ages? What are the ages for the ages of the face amounts? I'm not quite sure. We might see that here shortly in an agent guide. I don't know for sure, but I know it does. It's not 50 grand for 89. It's probably more like 25. Okay. So let's take a look at some questions on the application. So again, for you old fogies that can't get with the times, this is a paper app. You can use it. So for smokers, if you're smoking that e-cig or vape, that counts as tobacco, okay? Remember, you run into somebody who vapes, uses the e-cigs, whatever, that's a Prosperity deal. Prosperity accepts that as a non-smoker, okay? So as you go through here, I'm just going to go through all of these health questions really quickly. So again, anything answered, and so I'm going to start with just a brief overview, and then we'll transition to going through the questions. Part A, if anything's answered yes, it's declined, okay? Part B, if anything is answered yes, these two questions, it is a modified. And Part C, if anything's answered yes in these two questions, it's a standard plan. If everything's answered no, then it's a level plan. And yes, your client can answer multiple yeses here. It's not just one and then it's done. It's any multiple occurrences of yeses qualifies you for that standard rate. Answering everything no means it's preferred. Now, what if they answer one thing yes here, like they've got Huntington's disease, but everything else is a no? Just to be clear, any time the first sections take precedence on determining insurability versus the other sections. So if something's answered yes in Part A, you do not complete or continue the application, it's declined. If you get to Part B and everything in Part A was answered no, and then you get to Part B and something's answered yes, you don't go to Part C. Because there's a yes answer in Part B, it's a modified deal, even if all the questions in Part C are no. So by default, you don't get to Part C until sections A and B are all answered no. And then from there, if one or more are answered yes, it's standard. If all are answered no, it's preferred. Okay, makes sense? So let's look at a few of these health questions here and why I like them. So this is all the knockout questions really in Part A. And these are typical knockout questions. Do you get home health care, hospice care? Are you in a hospital, correctional facility, psychiatric facility? This is typical run-of-the-mill knockout stuff. Are you taking are you getting help for any activities of daily living? That's typically a knockout deal. Now they do say that a wheelchair or mobility scooter is a knockout question, okay? So if Mrs. Jones goes to Walmart and jumps on a scooter to get her food for the week, have to answer that yes, according to how this question is worded. And there's no exceptions here. And they even say mobility scooter, you know, and it's use. So yeah, so you have to answer that as it is. There's no wiggle room there. Within the past year, so this is a look back of a year, do you use oxygen, been on dialysis, HIV, AIDS, typical knockouts. Bone marrow transplants or amputation due to any disease or complications of diabetes. So what this means here, it's not if you've had an amputation to a disease or if you've had complications of diabetes, because there's not a comma in here. What this means is that this whole section here is basically saying that if your diabetes is so bad that you've had an amputation removed from it, then you have to answer yes. If they have complications of diabetes, but they've never had an amputation, you can answer that no. Does that make sense? Okay. AIDS, HIV, kind of a repeat of that question. Question 6, Lou Gehrig's, Huntington's, sickle cell. By the way, if you ever run into sickle cell that's graded with Prosperity, I want to say they're the only company that will take that other than a guaranteed issue. Alzheimer's, dementia, mental incapacity, that's declinable typically with most companies. Congestive heart failure, pulmonary fibrosis, terminal conditions, end-stage diseases, cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, unoperated heart defects. So again, the same thing. Anything answered yes here, it's knockout. Cancer in the past 2 years. So that would have to be answered yes, or received some sort of treatment for like chemotherapy or radiation. So you have to be radiation and cancer-free for 2 years before you're qualified on Aetna. Have you had one occurrence or multiple, or have you had more than one occurrence of cancer? So if you started with breast cancer, then that was 10 years ago. But now, 5 years ago, you had, I don't know, liver cancer. You're healthy now. You've been cancer-free for 3 years. Even though you would answer no to question 7 on here, you'd have to answer yes to question 8 because it was a recurrence. It's the same or different type of cancer. So if the person's had multiple occurrences of cancer, it's no-go. Okay. And then again, if you get this stuff here, refer to the cheat sheet. A lot of these times, these particular issues are almost always guaranteed issue. Okay. So if you want to kind of cut it short, just if it's a knockout with most companies, 90% of the time it's guaranteed issue. Hey, MC, what's up? David, just to clarify, did you say for Social Security deposit billing that they take the premium before it falls on a weekend? Yes. So in this case, if we did a numerical date on the 3rd and the client, and we would take it out on that Tuesday the 5th, but the client got paid July the 1st on Friday, there's all that time in between, right? If you did Social Security deposit billing, we would actually draft on July 1st, that Friday, hours after the client received her deposit, okay? So yes, it's immensely faster and reduces that lapse risk or non-payment risk. And it is frequent. It is, honestly frequent, but it is a real risk that you want to mitigate. Back in my day when we had Trans for years, them and maybe Trinity up to about 2018 or 19 were the only big time Social Security deposit billers. But now there's so many carriers that do it. It's just, you should really, this is almost as important as good underwriting. I mean, it's that important, is how we bill and how quickly we bill makes worlds of difference. Okay. So Part B, any of these questions again in Part B are going to be a modified 2-year waiting period plan. So and again, this is typical guaranteed issue type of stuff. Alcohol or drug abuse, DUIs in the last 2 years, complications of diabetes. So this also includes the main one, which is neuropathy. If you read through Part B, question 1, Part B. Kidney or liver disease, that includes kidney insufficiency. That includes stage 1, 2, and 3 kidney failure. Also cirrhosis, hepatitis C, that kind of thing. if you get somebody that has these conditions, please pivot to another company. If this is in a vacuum and these are the only conditions. For example, the most common one of these 3 points is neuropathy. Please think of Trinity Life, Family Benefit, Royal Neighbors. Who else does this? I think that's pretty much it. Those are really the only 3 companies that will take diabetic neuropathy, assuming everything else is fine, that fits their underwriting, as a first day full coverage product. Most don't. Very few do. So keep that in mind. And that is I don't know, maybe it's being in the South, but it is a more common issue that I've seen in my career, as well as others will confirm. If you run into kidney or liver disease, take a look at Foresters. You can qualify the person for their standard first day full coverage with Foresters. Also with Liberty Bankers Life, they're real good for hepatitis C. If the client has taken treatment, and assuming it's effectively cured, and they've stopped treatment, even if it's a day after that, they actually qualify they qualify for standard rates there too. So some good underwriting niches. Okay. If you've had any angina, and this is in the past year, okay, please note this. If it's been longer than a year, you can answer no to these 2 points in question 2, part B. So angina, heart attack, cardiomyopathy, or any type of heart or circulatory procedure, stroke, transient ischemic attack, aneurysm, or brain tumor. So if it's been longer than a year, and you can answer the question within the past year, have you been diagnosed with, received, or been advised to receive treatment for, and all those conditions been longer than a year, you can answer no to those, right, by default. That's huge. That means in order to qualify to the Part C to get a standard rate, you at least can get that. You can at least get a standard rate with a client that has had one of these issues within the last 1 year or more, okay? Most of the time, and why this is a big deal, to get a first day full coverage product, you need a full 2 years at least of no issues before you can qualify. It says 2 years in the beginning of Part B. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it does for question 1, but the next section, question 2, is just 1 year. So yeah, okay. So now we're on to Part C, where the real fun starts. So again, any question here answered yes is a standard price, and it can be all of them answered yes. If everything's answered no, then it's a preferred price, right? So within the past 2 years, basically the same questions in the last section, but now with a 2-year look back. So again, if you had a heart attack 18 months ago, you would have to answer yes to Part C, question 1A. If it's been 3 years ago, you can answer no to it, right? Does it make sense? Then in Part 2, we have Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. That's good. Sometimes it's hard to get first day full coverage, and lupus. And it's, have you ever been diagnosed with this? And then the next one is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, chronic bronchitis. Again, not all bronchitis is chronic. You can have what's called acute bronchitis. Some of you may have really bad allergies. You know, if you live down here in the South, it's the worst for allergies. You'll have them for real bad for a couple of months, and then it goes away. So that's acute bronchitis brought on by allergies. The way the companies will determine that is the frequency in which the prescriptions are filled, okay? So if your client says they don't have chronic bronchitis, but they fill Spiriva, or they fill their Albuterol, or their Ventolin, or whatever the du jour inhaler is these days, and they see a monthly prescription on a consistent, regular basis, say over 6 to 12 months, it's highly likely that in this case, even though the client may answer no, the prescription history says, you look like you got a chronic condition based off of the fills. Remember, when we say fill, they're going to the doctor and getting the prescription. So they're going to say it actually should be a yes. Or any emphysema or any other chronic respiratory condition. So I would suggest, I'm not sure about this. We would need to look at the script guide, which we're going to do here in a second. I would suggest asthma is a chronic respiratory condition at first blush. Now we'll see when we look at the prescriptions. is albuterol is a common asthma, chronic asthma type of medication that's prescribed to treat asthma. But what it will say is, like we saw yesterday, if you walked through the health conditioning process, it will identify if albuterol is a knockout and made standard, or if it's acceptable for preferred. So we want to do that. But for the time being, asthma sometimes is an exception. It's not considered a chronic respiratory condition, even though it is. So they're really looking at something like in the COPD family of chronic conditions. Okay. So I think I'm sharing with you my price list here. So you can find this on the Aetna page. I think, is it there? Actually, you got to get to me to get it. But I just wanted to kind of show you what to expect on pricing. This is all kind of a pain in the rear. This will be updated on the FEX quotes link that we have on our training website. So give it a couple of days. It will be on. Adam's pretty good about updating that stuff. But what we're looking on pricing, again, ignore the super preferred, doesn't apply. But what we're looking on for the stuff that is preferred for smoker, non-smoker, it's pretty competitive. It's kind of in line with what I would expect. I would say it's not going to beat Trinity, Family Benefit, or Mutual of Omaha, but it's going to be better than a lot of other carriers. But yeah, you have to kind of manually do all the rates. This is a real pain. But based on some kind of just basic number crunching, everything looks really good with this product. I don't see any issues. So for pricing, and again, I looked at standard pricing too, because a lot of good reason to use this is to get your COPD, your heart history issues, first day full coverage, and with standard rates instead of a guaranteed issue like you normally would. And the rates compared well with Liberty Bankers and Foresters. Those are the comparable products out there. So yeah. So you may be asking yourself, what if you already have Aetna, or I'm sorry, what if you already have Liberty, you already have Foresters? Why would you want to pick up Aetna or consider it otherwise? I think the big reason why is if you're telesales, this is going to be an even simpler process than either Liberty and Foresters, because there's no phone interview required. You just do this authorization code and that's it. Face-to-face, it kind of could go either way. I'm all for as easy and as quick and painless application processes as possible. If all else is equal, I will reach for a carrier that goes quick with getting policies issued and approved for the client. And so that means if one carrier requires a phone interview and I'm face-to-face, let's say, and another carrier doesn't, and they both give instant decisions, I'm going to go with the one that doesn't require a phone interview. So yeah, so that's how I like it. Can't complain about this. Pricing looks really good. We're kind of still out on the RX stuff, the prescription stuff. Historically, Aetna has been tight on the cardiac meds like blood thinners, Coumadin, warfarin, also Lasix to a certain degree. We talked about this yesterday about the dosage size there. They've historically been tight on that. Again, this could also be subject to change. So I don't expect with this product, since they're pulling scripts and MIBs, that they're going to be loose with the scripts. It's probably going to fall in line with what you expect from a Foresters or a Liberty. So yeah, but otherwise, I think this is worth picking up. If you think you might use it, I think it's smart. Yes, you do get an instant decision. Once you submit it, you get like the green light if it's approved, the red light if it's declined, and then there's like a yellow light if it's referred to underwriting, I think is how it goes. If you think you might use this, go ahead and just request contracting. And the reason being is right now, this is another one of those, gotta get hot products. And there's always a bum rush that is huge up front, this big surge in contracting. We've got people who apply for GTL. I think some of you are online right now and haven't heard back. I mean, they've been inundated. And every time any new player enters the market, and I would count Aetna to a certain extent as a new player with the product update, there's just this huge rush of contracting. So it's likely going to take a while, probably a month plus, to get appointed with Aetna at this point. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But you might as well, if you think you might use this, just throw this in the pipeline.